I'm going to be the negative Nancy here. I'm not going to predict a blowout or anything like that. On the road, short week, young team. I'm not going the negative route here, but I am going to say 20-17 that we will lose. We will be competitive. I famously or infamously said that after the Titans game that we were going to kick the shit out of the Falcons. I was uber confident going into that one. I really felt that we were going to win that football game. This is not just me trying to be contrarian, though. I think that they have some really, really good football players. They're a little bit more experienced. They are at home. Again, I already said it, short week. That does mean a lot when you're talking about the youngest team in football. And Joe Douglas said it in his press conference. They have the most rookie snaps in the NFL. What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ Today. It is the Sunday post-game show, Friday night edition. We just had the Thursday night game. You got some feedback going on your end, Mr. Chad. I'm not sure if there's something you need to turn down. But it is great to be with you guys. We would love to hear from you, so go ahead and hit the comments. Let us know what you guys are thinking coming out of that loss, 45-30. Fun fact, it is the 1,069th unique score in NFL history. So if you're into NFL history and stats and things like that, it is one of the unique scores in the league's entire history. Chad, overall thoughts as we enter the post-game show here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have time to break it down, but just to kind of start out, when we talked about, weeks ago, we talked about having competitive losses and what that would mean. And I know I can already hear the guys saying, well, it wasn't competitive. You weren't competitive at all. But we were competitive in spots that I thought mattered. And I saw some things last night that I haven't seen in a while, and it gave me a sense of relief and a sense of, dare I say, hope for the future. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later on.
Okay, great. And so I'll just go over this right now, and I'll probably do it at the end of the show as well. So there is a schedule change for the channel, guys. So if you're just tuning in right now, the Wednesday live streams are going to be on a break, and we will pick those up as soon as the season ends. We're going to continue the Sunday post-game shows all season long. And now during the season, I'm going to be creating a solo pre-recorded podcast, and the idea here is that I can create some videos as well. So if you guys want to be a part of the podcast that's pre-recorded, there is a phone number at the top of the screen right now, 347-921-1468. If you're watching the show right now and you want to be a part of that podcast, go ahead and give me a call right now. You can do it later. That phone line is always open. Would love to hear your takes on the Colts game and also the Bills game that's coming up, which, again, kind of scary to think that that's our next opponent. We'll talk about the Bills a little bit as well. So anyway, would love to hear from you guys. Feel free to hit that number up at any point during the night, and would love to hear your Jets takes. Chad, why don't you go first, man? You said you had a few things that were positive. I would like to hear from you first. What gives you some hope coming out of the game? I think I know where you're going with this one, and I don't hate the mindset at all, actually.
Yeah, of course, and I think it needs to be said when it can be said. So look, we've been talking about, literally 2 weeks ago, we were sitting here on the show talking about when do we fire Mike LaFleur? How are we going to replace him? What's the difference going to be when Zach is going to have to start with a new offensive coordinator? And now I don't think anybody's talking about that, because we had a 405-yard game out of Mike White last week. Last night we had 317 yards. We had 317 yards out of Josh Johnson, plus another 97 yards out of Mike White.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In the same offense that Zach has been running for the past 7 weeks. So I don't need to be an expert to know that this offense has a potential to work. And by the way, you know what else looked a lot better all of a sudden when there's a competent quarterback running the scheme? The offensive line. Right. So when you don't have a, and I'm not knocking on Zach because this is all part of the learning process, but when you don't have a kid back there holding on for the ball too long, not looking at his second reads, not looking for his check down, and instead just running around and taking off and being erratic right away, guys are going to get through. And don't get me wrong, I still am going guard and center in the draft. No one's going to talk me out of that.
That's going to be me. I'm going to talk you out of that, but go ahead.
Don't do it. Don't you do it. No, I don't care. I'm going guard and center in the draft. But no, I have restored faith in Mike LaFleur. I don't think the O-line, although they are not that great, I don't think they're as horrid as we originally thought they were. And keep in mind, this is without Mekhi Becton on the team. Okay. So we've seen a quarterback, when your quarterback executes, all of a sudden things look better. And again, just like the Bengals game, Mike White didn't do anything overly spectacular. Josh Johnson didn't do anything overly spectacular. You know, and then I'll get to this part. Can we talk about our running back of the future? Is no one talking about the fact that we found our guy? Michael Carter is special. I mean, this is running. In preseason we were saying, well, I hope he gets some snaps towards the end of the season. Well, we're in week 9. And he's our running back 1, and for good reason. He is a electric runner. I love it, running north and south. And before I get into the big name, can we give some credit to Keelan Cole?
Yeah, he looked good, man. Really, really good.
He looked really good. He looked really good for the second week in a row. And, of course, we have to get into our main event of the offense, which is Mr. Breakout himself. Elijah, give me more. Because we've been waiting for this all year. He's finally showing up. We saw that shiftiness that we've been promised all year, and he looks great. And I think we're only going to see more and more of that. I can pause there, and we can get on to other things.
No, I'm cool. I'm going to bounce off of what you said a little bit. So, yeah, Elijah Moore breaking out, 2 touchdowns, right? 2 touchdowns in that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really good. And the thing that's nice to see, him is getting the ball, catching it, and being able to scoot with it a little bit, not just catching it and getting tackled. It felt like that was what was happening a lot early in the season. So for him to be able to get some yards after the catch was nice to see. They used him in a variety of ways. They tried a couple of those lateral, different type of plays where they would have him in motion, or they screened it to him, and it didn't quite work out. But I like the fact that they're still trying to get him involved and get the ball in his hands in creative ways. And Michael Carter, we talked a little bit about it on the Wednesday show. He is definitely, I would say, our best offensive weapon outside of maybe Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. And I think he's really in that class. Like, I really do. I think he is very, very good. And I wish they had used him a little bit more in the receiving game like they had, but it seemed like they envision Johnson in a similar way. They really do want him involved in the offense. And we saw him again make another, really good play in the game. He did have a fumble, and it does seem like that might be a trend with Ty Johnson. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, because it really left a sour taste in Vern's mouth. He says that fumble flipped the whole game. He says he's a scrub. I don't actually agree with that. I think that Ty Johnson has proven that he can make plays. But what are your thoughts on that? Needing to hold on to the football, not holding the football.
Well, in a game like that, I mean, fumbles, there's never a good time for a fumble, I guess. Mm-hmm. But in a game like that, when you're starting out behind, he's already getting limited reps. For him to fumble, it was terrible timing. And my fear is that's going to limit his reps even more moving forward, because that's the cardinal sin on offense. You cannot cough off the ball. You just can't do it. Is it a trend with him? No, I don't think it's a trend. I don't think it's a trend yet. if we see it maybe once or twice in the next couple of weeks, then yeah, I think that would be concerning. But at this very moment, I'm not concerned with it being a trend. No.
Yeah, and Robbie Oak pointed out, and it was Darius Leonard, the All Pro, the 2-time All Pro, absolute stud of a linebacker in Darius Leonard. I mean, that guy is very, very special. One of the best linebackers in the league. And that is literally his expertise, is knocking the ball out, punching it out. He literally goes in like a punch that he's going to use in a boxing ring.
Yeah.
But he punched it out, and credit to him. I think that it wasn't one of those things where he was careless with the football necessarily. Just a better play made by the defensive player. Not trying to make excuses for for Ty Johnson, because he does. He needs to hold the football. It doesn't matter who he's going against. So I want to get back to this comment really quick. It's from the Hex Jet. He is the winner was the winner of the Wayne Corbett mini helmet giveaway. So he's back in action, and he says, "My real non-sarcastic take. I want to see if the team comes together on both sides of the ball in a month. I do like Elijah's emergence, and I agree with Chad. The offense has been productive recently." I don't think there's any debate. That is definitely a takeaway that you can have and feel good about. The Colts defense, they are not a bad defense at all. They're a little bit weak in the secondary, or a little bit weaker, I should say, in relation to their other parts of their defense. But they have a really good pass rush. Kwity Paye, they drafted. They have DeForest Buckner. We talked about Darius Leonard. They have another linebacker. I think it's a Riki or Ruki or something like that. I don't know his name perfectly, but he's a good football player too. So that's not a slouch of a defense that we just went up against at any point. They are a good football team. They're better than their 4-5 record says. And I said that prior to the game. I thought that they were a better football team than their record indicated. Let's see. Robbie Oak, he says, E1 says Zach can do this. Unfortunately, it might take some time for him to get there. Oh, everyone says that Zach can do this. That's the thing. I think Zach physically, of course, can do it. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops as the season goes on. We all knew that was going to be a thing. Like, he was going to take some lumps. It's been more lumps than we expected, but what are your thoughts on this upcoming game in regards to Mike White, Zach Wilson? I personally believe they should play Mike White. He seems to be healthy, and it seemed like if he hadn't had to miss like the second quarter and part of the third quarter, it sounded like he was feeling better by like the fourth quarter of that game. So he potentially could have even gone in. What do you think? Buffalo, who are you playing? What do you want to see happen?
Well, I'm starting Mike White. There's no question about it. I am in the camp, and we won't know what's happening behind the scenes because they're not gonna share that information with us. But I would not be quick to rush Zach back. I don't want to do that, and it's not because I think Mike White is going to be the savior or he's going to be this amazing story. Although I would welcome that if that happens. It's because I want Zach to have this time now to experience being a backup and learning as much as he can, and hopefully shifting his playing style to where he calms down. He doesn't try to play hero ball. He doesn't try to play real life Madden and just how many times have we heard the phrase "take what the defense gives you" in the past month? And it keeps being said for a reason. That's what I want for Zach. I'm okay. I'm not interested in rushing him back. I don't even necessarily I don't want to see him against Miami. I don't want to see him. I'm okay with that. The season's over. It's been over. We're not going anywhere. I want this guy to I don't want more time with him being crazy and running around like he's 1997 Brett Favre. I want him understanding where he needs to go with the ball. It's like Salah says, play boring. He's going to have his moments where, God knows, especially with this O-line, he's going to have his moments where plays break down. He's going to have to run around outside the pocket and do his Johnny Manziel thing, but not all the time. I want him to do the Mike White thing. I want him to do the Josh Johnson thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
So
you're singing, you're preaching.
until until he can prove to the coaches, whether it be Mike LaFleur or Rob, Sal, or whatever, um, I want him until he can prove it. I want him to ride the bench. I think that's totally fine.
And I don't think that anybody, or I'm sorry, I don't think that people understand that sitting doesn't mean you're not learning the NFL game. Like there is a lot of validity to just being a backup for a time. We've seen it be successful with other quarterbacks, and the funny thing is when those guys do get their opportunity, they don't take forever to get going. Like when they step on the field, they're just ready or they're just not ready. Think about a guy like Mike White. And I know it's recency bias, but there's other quarterbacks that when they just get their opportunity after time sitting, they just do a good job. Mike White had been in the league for a few years. And then all of this time that he's been sitting, he's been learning. He gets his opportunity, and the dude was ready mentally, physically, all of those things. And so for the people that argue Zach needs to be out there because he's not going to develop, that's absolute horse manure. It's just ridiculous. He needs to learn the game of football, and it's very obvious that he needs to do some learning. I get a little irritated with the crowd that seems to think that this is a Zach Wilson like stands account or whatever. Like I don't really get into any of that stuff. He needs to play better, and I want to make sure that's crystal clear with everybody that's watching this. Zach Wilson cannot continue to play the way he had prior to this injury. It has to improve. So I wanted to take a moment to say that if Zach sits for the rest of this year, which I don't think will happen, I would be okay with it. If he sits for the next month, that's good. I really do think that would be a positive thing for sure. All right, let's go to a couple of comments here before we move on. So the Hex Jet, he says, get a thumper to compliment him like Ingram was to Kamara, and I think that Carter will really fly. This is a great point to make, and I do believe that that is the missing element in our offense is a physical bruising between the tackles, running back. I think we talked about it, you and me, Chad, last time we got to do this. I don't know, man. Go ahead and
talk.
Because
we wanted to keep Josh Adams, and we did not understand dropping Josh Adams in lieu of Ty Johnson. I like Ty Johnson. I think Ty Johnson has talent. I mean, he's a Maryland guy. I mean, he's got the talent. But we wanted to keep Josh. I think you and I both wanted to keep Josh Adams.
I didn't want him to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that was our guy. That could have been our third down guy. That could have been our short yardage guy, our goal line guy, and now they're going to have to go out and have to look for a replacement for him.
Yeah. And, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, though? Like, do you think that's a missing element in our offense? Because I frankly, I feel like there are times where we need to get that tough yard, and it's been problematic at certain points during the season.
I have always been a fan of either a fullback position, which doesn't exist anymore, or a big bruising like Jerome Bettis running back position that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, two of my favorite players of all time were Dan Creeder from the Steelers. Do you remember him?
I remember Dan Creeder, yes.
Dan Creeder was a literal just monster. And Mike Allstott. Do you remember Mike Allstott?
Of course I remember yes, Mike Allstott I remember.
I'm drawing some major comparisons, but those are two guys where you just needed those yards. You needed to grind out those yards. I mean, that was it. And then, in the best team that we had in one of the best teams that we had in our lifetimes,
ground and pound.
Yeah, no, we had the fullback,
Tony Richardson.
Right. And I mean, the problem is that the game doesn't lend itself to keeping those positions on the 53 these days. I wish it did. So now what you try to do is you try to find a running back who can be that complement instead of having like a full-time fullback like that. But God, I wish we could, man. I really wish we could. the Ravens they've drafted a guy and he was there for us
I
in the
know.
sixth and seventh.
Ben what? What's his
Ben
last
Mason.
name?
Ben Mason.
Ben Mason. Yep. I know who you're
And
talking about.
I wanted that guy. He was there for us. I really thought he could have been. Now, to be fair, I don't know how he's doing. I mean, I'm gonna look it up now out of curiosity.
I don't even know if he's playing, to be honest with you. I do want to get to this comment. I'm not trying to cut you off, Chad. I think you make a good point. Being a little bit more physical in the running game for sure. There was some interesting takes here with the Zach. They had the cameras pointed at Zach Wilson during the blowout portion of the game before we started to score more points. And Zach was talking to Corey Davis on the sideline, and he was smiling and laughing or whatever. I'm going to let you talk first because it looks like some people are bothered by that. Vern didn't like it. It looks like Robbie Oak probably didn't like that as well. What do you think? I want to hear from you, Chad. What do you? Hey, Grant Rude, how you doing, man? Good to see you. What do you think, man? What are your takes on that?
Yeah, it doesn't speak well to a fan perspective because we are always, as a whole, the fans are always more emotionally invested than the players are. I'll never forget after the same thing happened to Mark Sanchez. When he was playing, he was caught laughing or something or smiling after a loss, and everybody was getting pissed. And I think at the time I was a big user of this old board called jetsinsider.com, which I don't even know if that exists anymore. But I remember making a post like, this is BS. What is he so freaking happy about? I'm over here. I'm in my house throwing remotes and kicking pillows around and stuff. Why is he smiling? But we have to remember that it's different for these guys. It's a different experience for these guys. I like him. Yeah, it'd be better if he didn't do it, but I don't think that this speaks to his level of character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll be very blunt about it. The optics, of course, don't look great, but let's be honest. These guys do have lives, and Zach Wilson wasn't dressed for the football game. Again, I do not want to sound like I'm making excuses for him because if it were any player, I would have a very similar reaction. These guys are buddies. They're friends. They're talking on the sideline. They're not dressed for the football game. What is there to do? I mean, they don't have a lot to do other than just to chill and talk to each other on the sideline. So, I don't know. Personally, for me, I don't really care. What would upset me more, which did not happen, which is great, Elijah Moore scored his touchdown when we were down 42-10, I think, at that point in the game. And you saw him immediately put his hand out, and he said, stop, because people were running up to him to celebrate. Do you remember that moment at all?
I did. I wanted to ask you about that.
So that to me is great. Speaks so much about his character as a person and as a player. It would have bothered me far more if our team had celebrated down 42-16 than Zach laughing on the sideline talking to another player that's not playing in the football game. That's my spin on it. Again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that personally, it doesn't really bother me all that much. Let me hear what you kind of talked a little bit about it. And guys in the chat, let me know what you guys think. I didn't really care too much. So,
yeah, that's like when Santonio used to do that point and drop thing. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And he did it
every
to his
time.
credit. He did it with we would be losing 37-6, and he would catch a 5-yard out route in the fourth quarter and do the point and drop. Like, okay, dude, like we're getting murdered. Stop doing the little point and drop thing. Like, I know it's your brand and everything, but we're getting killed and we look like idiots doing it. Stop it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Grant Rude says you lost the game. You can't smile at your children. Don't you dare laugh at a joke. Be angry until you win. And he's clearly being sarcastic. And this is coming from a guy who is not a huge fan of Zach. And I think that's good to hear from him in that regard because they're not robots, man. These are not robotic people. These are human beings just like us. And you said it best, Chad. From our perspective as fans, when we're losing, we're miserable. We're in misery, and we're sitting on our chairs and our couches, and we want to we just want to jump out the window basically because it's so hard to watch. But this is their job. This is their careers. So it's a completely different, perspective for them, and it's frustrating. But at the same time, like, how can you really be so mad at them? That's personally how I see it.
And I would add this too, from a fan's perspective, as from a performance perspective, do you want a guy who's tightly wound, overly focused, overly self-critical, and insane to the point where now he's going to potentially make more mistakes, or do you want a guy who's loose, who's going out there with a clear head? I mean, I want the other guy. Everybody went crazy when Trevor Lawrence made that comment last year when he said like, hey, I've got other things in my life besides football, because everybody wanted him to be like in this insane football group. Well, not everybody is, and honestly, Tom Brady isn't either. If he was, he wouldn't be doing all the commercials and the books and this kind of stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that.
I want to thank V-Man for the super chat. You've sent in several before in the past, so V-Man, it really means a lot. Thank you for supporting the channel. He says, the Jets defense lacks talent. Our D is made up of reclamation projects, late round picks, and UDFAs. We need linebacker, cornerback, safety, and edge this offseason. I was waiting for the defensive slamming that really is deserved at this point. Let's be honest. I was very much in the frame of mind after the first month or so of the season. Man, this defense, like, they're overachieving. They're not maybe the best unit in the league, but they're playing hard. We're getting completely and utterly gutted on defense right now. And so V-Man's point, who's to say we don't need an edge? We're not really getting any pressure anymore. After the Titans game, we're not getting anywhere near the quarterback. So that's a problem. Edge is an issue. Both of our starting safeties, albeit they were veterans, late in their late 20s, both of them have suffered season-ending injuries. Both are on one-year contracts. We've got Ashton Davis out there over pursuing and trying to clock everybody every single time he's tackling. Gives up that enormous, it was like a 70-plus yard touchdown to Jonathan Taylor.
78.
Yeah. So kudos to Ashton Davis because he forced 2 fumbles, but at the same time, you can't be giving up touchdowns. That's like you're the safety. You're supposed to be the last line of defense. You can't be over pursuing and giving up a big touchdown going the other way. Linebacker. He's right. Jared Davis, a reclamation project. This is a guy that had a good season, and I definitely noted that when we signed him. I was excited because of that. He had a season where he had multiple sacks, bunch of tackles, he had speed. But he really isn't anything other than just a guy who wasn't very good on another football team. The Detroit Lions let him go. They said, see ya, buddy. UDFAs, we don't have too many UDFAs other than maybe Bryce Huff. There aren't too many others that actually have a pretty big role on this defense that are UDFAs, but the Jamian Sherwoods of the world, late round pick, starting a lot of football games, too many football games. He was not ready, even though he got hurt. Hamza Nasruddin, guy that I was super high on. He probably wasn't ready to play right away, even though I thought he could have played. Our secondary, our cornerbacks, I can't slam them. They have competed. I think that's the one position group where I'm going to say, you know what? Bryce Hall, Brandon Eccles, get Javelin Guidry. These guys don't deserve to be completely ridiculed because I feel like they have brought it on a pretty consistent basis. What do you say, Chad, about this guy, V-Man's comment here about our defense?
Well, first and foremost, I understand the frustration. I really do. That was a frustrating game. There's a certain kind of frustration when you're watching your team get ran on that's unlike anything else. It's it's different than offensive lack of production. It's different than watching these long bombs. When you're watching your team get just ran on over and over again, yes, that is terrible.
Miserable.
But it is. It's awful. But here's where I slightly disagree. I believe that we always talk about momentum when it comes to the game. And I believe that when most people think momentum, they think offensively. When I think momentum, I tend to think defensively. For a team's defense to have consistent production, they generally have to be like top 5, top 10. Otherwise, there's going to be up and down swings throughout the season, and it's very often how they perform is going to very much depend on the offense. Now, you have a huge defensive game, even though they still let up like 30-some points against the Bengals last week. In the same way that the Bengals defense had a letdown against us, it was now time for our defense to have a letdown. And I can already hear you guys saying, well, you shouldn't have a letdown. You should be consistent. Well, you're not going to be consistent unless you've got more talent across the board. That being said, Bryce Hall, we have our cornerback 1. We should be happy about this guy. We've got our cornerback 1 going into next year. I'm pretty sure I feel good about Brandon Echols. I don't know that I'm ready to sign him to that second position, but I like him a lot. Quinnen Williams is playing with high effort. We all remember Muhammad Wilkerson taking plays off. I remember Quentin Coples taking plays off. Quinnen Williams doesn't do that. Quinnen Williams, I believe, has the potential to still be a leader on this team. This guy's running out and he's chasing down screens.
Yes.
Even when the game's out of hand, I love to see it. I love JFM, but I'm not ready. But I think he was actually a part of getting gashed yesterday, so I'm not ready to give him kudos for that. But I still believe the building blocks are there for a great defense, and I don't think that the defense is as bad as they have showed us in games this year. You got to remember we were starting these rookie outside linebackers, okay? You got to remember our big signing that we were all hoping for, Lawson, was out for the season, okay?
Yeah.
And I know especially at this time of the year, everybody's got the injuries, but we got particularly crushed on defense with these injuries, okay? I know. I understand it's a lot. I'm not happy about it either. But that can change once you bring in 2-3 players. It really can. Because I got to tell you, Mosley's getting up there in age, and I'm not counting, even though he looks great, and I didn't think he looked in any way terrible at all. I'm not counting on Mosley being there, but I do believe we still have some good young talent on this defense. And that's why I slightly disagree that it's awful for them.
Man, I don't know. It's bad. The defense was bad. This might be one of the first things we'll have to disagree on. We don't typically see things too differently, but this one I really am concerned about the defense moving forward. The linebacking crew is patchwork, and our man V-Man, he mentioned it earlier, like Quincy Williams. We all were excited when he came in and he was making big hits and plays, but this is a guy that in the past, hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities because he hasn't been a very good football player in the NFL.
That's right. And John, there's a reason why Quincy Williams has been on 4 or 5 teams.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, and there's a reason why our linebackers they're rookies. They're undrafted free agents. They're 6th and 7th rounders. I mean, I'm not saying you should be giving up 130 yards in 3 games, but what did you really expect out of this defense? Ashton Davis looks bad. Like he just looks flat out. He looks flat out bad.
Yeah. And fun fact, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Fun fact about Ashton Davis, he was our highest rated PFF player this past game.
There's been too many anomalies with PFF. I remember when PFF first came out, I was like I subscribed and but I don't know. It's just that's the even to this day, football is just so hard to quantify at that level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just
It's analytics. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to Vern. Vern. He says Mosley got made a fool of. Hall, Eccles, Carter finally got exposed. I don't know about that. I don't know if they got exposed. We didn't really generate any pass rush, man. It's hard to hold up in the back end if your front line is not doing what they needed to do. And you kind of hinted at that, Vern. You said the D line was a joke. That's actually where my complaint is. I mean, those holes and those running lanes were absolutely massive. As our boy NY Jets from Florida, he said it best. You could have driven a car through some of those lanes. So we lost the game at the line of scrimmage defensively. There is no question about it. There was no pass rush. We were not stopping the run at all. We were getting pushed back at the line of scrimmage. How can you possibly stop the running game if your front line isn't doing their job? And the answer is you can't. To the tune of 260 rushing yards mid-third quarter, which was the most rushing yards in a freaking game all season long in the NFL. Terrible. Just terrible. Really, really bad. And
no, I don't. And
go ahead.
You're right. And the problem is they don't have an answer for it. They don't have an answer for these outside zones. They don't have an answer for these screens. Ever since the Patriots did it, that's all teams are going to be doing, and that's what they should do. They keep saying, well, the playbook is out on the defense or whatever, and they're right, because we don't have that talent on the outside to be able to chase these guys down, and that's what we're going to see until next year.
Yeah, and Vern, he's still going after Mosley. He's probably, pretty safe to say he's probably the best defensive player we have. But again, Vermin, I'm not going to say you're wrong because he didn't play great. He did have some moments where he didn't look great. But again, just try to imagine, if you're in a battle, in a war, and the front line is getting absolutely decimated and they're falling and you're the next line of defense. That's how that stuff happens. That's how the second line looks bad, is if the front line's not doing their job and they're not holding firm. So I hate to go military on us, but I think that's kind of the analogy that I would use to just point out, Mosley couldn't do his thing because the front line wasn't doing theirs, and they were getting blown backwards. So
and to their, I will say again, they were pissed. They were pissed after those first two drives, and they were just getting pushed around. And they knew right off the bat, those first two drives, that you got to give credit to that Indy O-line. Obviously they have Quinn and Nelson back, but those guys were just bulldozing. And what did our team do? Now our team keeps trying to punch the ball out. I like the effort, but when did you see everybody keep attacking the ball like that? Did you notice that? They kept attacking the ball. They kept trying to punch the ball out and getting it. And I think they were doing that in response because they were pissed. They were pissed because they were getting just blown off the line. And I tell you another thing, after that, they gave up. They're like, you know what? They gave up at that point. Mike White was out, and they said, okay, we're done.
Yeah, it could be. So we had a good question here from Rick Fisher. I went back and forth a little bit with somebody on Twitter, all in good spirit, nothing heated or anything. But he's asking, could it have been just bad defensive planning? What is your take? I'll let you go first because I have a very clearly defined answer here. What is your take on Jeff Ulbrich and the coaching staff in general? Are they part of the blame here? Could the game plan been an issue in regards to stopping their offense, which we didn't do?
It could be, but that's the age-old question, because if you're gonna say that we should have blitzed 5 or 6, then we would have got murdered on screens across the middle. We would have got killed on those flat routes. NY Jets Florida just said no talent, and unfortunately that's what it comes down to. It's not no talent across the board on defense, but it's just middle of the line, average talent at spots where we really don't need it. We need guys. Look, this team hasn't had a pass rusher in 16 years.
I'm so tired of that gaping hole. I'm so sick of it. It's like a pothole that you continuously run your car into and it shakes the coffee out of the coffee mug. And it's
Right.
like, I'm so tired of that problem.
And
Really.
we had a guy, and again, like you got to remember, I don't make any jokes about this. The team is literally cursed. I'm not making that up. The team is literally cursed. So we're not allowed to have one. We're not allowed to have those things. Um, it's not. Is it enough for you to take a pass rusher with one of those two top 10 picks next year? Or are you still going O line as you should with those first two picks?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Chad, we got to go O-line one time. We got to go
No.
D. Yes, we do. O-line and D-line. That's my early forecast right now is you got to get yourself more beef because we suck on the front line. We're not doing our job. We're clearly not holding up. And so if that's the case, we're not going to win any football games until it's fixed. Go ahead and get yourself an edge. Let him go to work alongside JFM and Carl Lawson, hopefully, when he gets back and healthy. How could we sit here and say to ourselves, we need to get an edge rusher, man. It's gotta happen, and it needs to be probably that first pick. Right now, that's my lean. I'm leaning towards taking an edge with the very first draft pick, whoever has it. If it's the Jets' first round pick, the Seahawks' first round pick, go get an edge. For the love of God, please start hitting the quarterback. I'm so tired of that. So effing tired of it. Let's go to Grant Root. He says, the worst part of the D I noticed was that they weren't getting lined up. So many plays, there were multiple linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties running to their spots way late. Coaching, Mosley, effort. It could be all of those things. So to get back to the coaching question from Mr. Rick Fisher, I'm going to go in agreement with what Chad mostly said, and I'm also going to agree with what our boy NY Jets Florida said as well. The New York Jets don't have what they need on defense. We thought that they were going to have weaknesses in the secondary, and for some part of that, that's true. But man, I didn't expect us to stink versus the run for sure. And our pass rush has not improved like I thought it would. So, yeah, it's like you have to have a strong horse in the stable to be able to win the race. And right now we don't have the horses. In my opinion, that's the problem. We don't have enough talent. It's not like these guys forget how to coach. It's not like Jeff Ulbrich all of a sudden is an idiot and doesn't know what he's doing. It's the same thing with Robert Saleh. It's not like he doesn't understand defensive, game planning, philosophy. These guys are not stupid. These are good coaches that we have. I really do think that. And so the players need to be brought in. And unfortunately, that's a tough pill to swallow as a fan base because we know we're not there yet. It's not like, oh, we need to fire these coaches. They stink. Get a new coach in and then we'll be all good. Like, it's not that fix. That's not going to fix anything. We have to improve the squad. And so that's going to take more time. It's going to take another offseason of drafting, free agency, re-signing people, letting people go. Because right now we don't have the horses, unfortunately. Do you have any agreements, takeaways from that, Chad?
I'm almost with you on that pass rusher within the first round. I'm so close to agreeing with you, but I just
give it a couple of months.
Yeah, probably. But I have this vision of a dominant right side with a dominant left side, and dare I say, a center that can really change the game. And I don't know. I really believe in that. And I'm not saying you can fill all the whole. I don't even know what the free agency class looks like next year, but I don't know. I'm just really stuck on that idea. Right? We've got a lot of time to debate that, and I know that we will, but
so
we'll see.
Let's talk about this because I mentioned it on the Wednesday show with Green Bean and with James. I was like, all the fans who say Jonathan Franklin Myers doesn't do anything, like, just give it some time. It'll be okay. Starting to get a little nervous. I think that's fair. We were all really hyped up about him. He signed his contract and was very, very emotional, struck a chord in all of our hearts. What are you going to say about Mr. John Franklin Myers? Are you worried? Are you chilling out? Are you relaxed about it? What are your thoughts on Jonathan Franklin Myers?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say because we don't know what his assignment necessarily has been. What was he assigned to set the edge? Was he told to pin his ears back and go after the quarterback every play? That's part of the problem as fans. We want sacks. We want forced fumbles. That's what we want all the time. Um, I'm not ready to I'm not ready to press the panic button on him yet. I believe that he earned his contract, and I believe that he earned the faith of us. If this goes on for another, you know, 2, 3, 4 games, then yeah, that's totally problematic. Um, but I have to have a little bit more faith in that, because if I lose faith in him, I mean, he's a big part of my defense moving forward. Like, yeah, well, nobody nobody was told to do that.
To go after the quarterback? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, we don't know what his assignment was, so I'm not ready to write him off quite yet.
This is an interesting take by Vern, or question, or whatever you want to say. He says Saleh needs to be more hands-on with the defense. I don't know about that one. I think, I don't know. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it here, but I think that, again, it's a simple thing here. Our players are not good enough. I think we can all agree there are weaknesses in this defense, especially in the front seven. You look at C.J. Mosley and you feel at least pretty good with him. But who else are you confident in that linebacking room? For real, who are you confident in? And there's nobody here. We don't know Jared Davis other than that he's played 2 football games with the New York Jets right now. That's all he's done. So we don't know anything about that guy. Hamza Nasruddin just came back from an injury. Hasn't really had an opportunity to do a whole lot. Hasn't really done anything as of yet. Jamian Sherwood just tore his Achilles. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm worried about defense. Does Saleh getting involved maybe help a little bit? Possibly. But Saleh's involved in the defensive game planning. And I think that he's the CEO. He's doing a little bit of everything. He is moving around the whole squad. Just because he's the head coach and doesn't call the defensive plays, I don't know if that necessarily means he is not involved in the game planning and, the schematics of it all. What do you think?
That's right. We sat here over the summer, all like 4 of us, and we said Saleh is not going to be like a Rex Ryan type. He's going to be a coach of the team. And now that it's not going our way, we can't now turn around and say, oh, well, he needs to focus on the defense and be more involved, to whatever extent more involved actually means. He said he was going to be the coach of the whole team. That's what he's supposed to do. That's what we signed up for. That's what we agreed to. And this is how it's shaking out. Now, does that mean they need to make a change with Jeff Ulbrich at the end of the year? Maybe. And is a change at defensive coordinator somehow a little bit easier to swallow than a change at offensive coordinator? Yeah, I think so. But no, I mean, like, this is what we signed up for. This is what we expected.
Yes. This is a good comment by Robbie Oak. And Vern, I do want to take a moment to say to you, we don't often agree. I hope you don't take any personal offense to it. It's all in good fun. I'm not claiming that I know more than anybody. So, you having a different take on anything does not bother me one bit at all. Because you may end up being right. You never know. Robbie Oak seems to potentially agree with you as well. Someone today said that Bill Belichick goes over to his defense and yells at them when needed during the games. We do see a lot of Saleh just kind of standing there with his arms folded. Not really a big fan of that. He does a good job when the team is doing well. Like, he's very, very, animated and fiery. But I feel like we need more balance from Saleh. And I think that is one fair thing to say is, like, when we're not doing well, when things are really in the shitter, what's he doing? Why is he just standing there? Get fiery in the way that you need to push your guys. Because he's always talking about how these are all grown men and they don't need to be, yelled at or whatever. Well, then why are you yelling when they're doing good? What's the point? Why are you even doing that? Just stand there like a statue all the time then. Because they don't need any motivation. So
That's a good point. I mean, it's counterpoint. We said the same thing about Todd Bowles. Okay, and look at who's the Lions head coach. He was talking about breaking
Dan
leg.
Campbell.
Yeah, I mean this guy's he's literally terrifying. This is a terrifying man. He's that excited. He's screaming. He's going nuts, and they're like, what are they like? 0-7, 0-8, 1-7, something like
I think
that.
they're 0-7.
I mean, what difference does it make if they're not producing? I don't know. I mean, this is what we part of what we love about sports is that it's the psychology behind it. I mean, if you scream at your students, first of all, you're getting in a lot of trouble. But if you scream at your students, are they going to perform? Are they going to perform better? I don't.
Oh,
I
they
don't
would.
know.
They would.
Okay.
They would. They listen too. They listen when you raise your voice a little bit. They do. We had an incident at recess. They were playing kickball and shit was going crazy. They were arguing. They were complaining, and I had to like raise my voice. And they all stopped and they all listened. And it was today we went out there and it was fantastic. We had a great time at recess. No big deal.
A kickball game for kids is just it couldn't be more intense. What was the argument over?
Rules.
Was it
rules? Yeah, it's always about rules.
Was there infield fly rule or something?
We would need another stream to go over everything that happened in this event. But again, I think most people in the chat are kind of agreeing with us. He needs to have a little bit more balance. Like Hex Jet here, he says, I would like to see Salah show some emotion when things aren't going well. If it's not going well, he seems to just stand there like a brick. I did not read that comment before I made my comment. And it's literally an echo of what you said. That's kind of cool. Grant Rude says similar things. He says, I would like to see Salah more involved on the sidelines. There's been more than one game. He's just stood motionless, saying nor doing anything. That's a problem. Again, you want to be the fiery guy when things are going good? Hell yeah, brother. Do it. It's fiery. I enjoy it. I think the players enjoy that. But you also need to be the motivator when things aren't going well. You got to snap the team out of it. So maybe do you think along the lines of Salah, like it's not really going to make a difference one way or another if he does that or not? But I think get going, man. If you're a fiery guy during the good stuff, be fiery during the bad stuff too.
I want him to be himself. I want him to be true to himself. I don't want him to have to change who he is now because we didn't hire we didn't hire this version of him. We hired the version of him that got him to where he is now. Okay, so I like it when he's going crazy, when they're doing good things, and maybe he thinks if he starts doing the rah-rah stuff and going nuts when they're not performing, that it's it's not going to bode well for him. It's going to hurt his credibility with the team because when you're in somebody's face and they're screaming and they're still not performing, then what does that do to your credibility?
It will be covered extensively, as you said, Vern. Yes, that is literally the first 30 minutes of the Jets Today podcast. Number 1, we're going to go over the whole thing, the whole kickball incident.
Okay, real quick. I had a buddy. This is how we were so competitive. This guy was we were in 6th grade, and our teacher, for some reason, she kicked. And she was rounding third. I don't know how she got it.
Oh, he pegged her.
No, she was rounding third, and she missed third base. I'm going back. This is like 1996.
Yeah.
She misses third base, and he's like, "What is wrong with you, you bum? You're a GD bum." He's literally pointing at her, and he's calling her a bum. And he gets in trouble for calling the teacher a bum because she missed rounding third base. And I'm like, dude. It's a kickball game,
right?
And we're like 9 years old, and you just called our teacher a bum to her face.
Yep, that's good stuff. No, I actually have another teacher analogy I'm going to use in a little bit, and we'll use that going forward with the Bills game when we start talking about that. So, HexJet, he says, when it wasn't going well, which was always, Gase would sit on the bench and pretend like he was scribbling on his play sheet, like we actually thought he was doing something. LOL. Yeah. No, that I don't know. I don't know what to say. I do think that Salah needs to do something when things aren't going well. It does seem like he does a lot of standing around, but I do like the sentiment that you said, Chad. We don't necessarily want him to change who he is just because fans think he should do one thing or another. Oh my gosh. Well, we're gonna go ahead and we'll flash forward a little bit. Nothing really. Is there anything else you want to talk about from the Colts game? You know, anything that stuck out? I guess Josh Johnson would be maybe another name we could talk about. The dude played really well. Kind of makes me hate the Joe Flacco trade even more. I never liked it. I didn't like it. I know some people were saying don't complain about it. It's not a big deal. I just thought it was such a stupid and pointless trade. We now have absolutely zero reason for him. Why is he here? Josh Johnson should absolutely be the backup quarterback. Mike White should be absolutely the quarterback starting. And when Zach Wilson comes back and when they deem him ready to play or whatever, it should be Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Josh Johnson back to the practice squad. Like, why did we make that trade? Why?
It's mind-boggling. It makes no sense. Joe Flacco, you know, some we said this. I don't know. Some quarterbacks, some veteran quarterbacks are interested in being teachers. Some aren't. Joe's not one of those guys. He's not interested in being a teacher. He doesn't care. He's not. He doesn't seem to care about being a teacher, and that's okay. That's his prerogative. That would have been the only reason to do that. Did you see Joe Flacco talking to Zach at any point?
He was. So to be fair, he was. There was a point in time where they were standing together, and it looked like Zach was like talking to his like favorite quarterback growing up, and Joe Flacco was just looking at him like, "Yeah, okay, kid." But no, you're right. It's not a role that he seems to be really like keen on doing. I think they panicked. I really do. I think Joe Douglas, for a small moment, panicked. He didn't know what he had in Mike White. They didn't really believe in him, I don't think, personally. I don't get it. I do not get it. It still, to this day, makes no sense why they made that move. I get it. It's only a 6th-round pick. It's not going to be a 5th-round pick if Joe Flacco doesn't play. But GD, man. I don't know. Josh Johnson proved that he is more than capable of stepping in when necessary. He is not incompetent at all. This is not another situation like David Fales or the other kid that the Jets had playing when we lost Sam Darnold to mononucleosis. So I don't know. There's nothing else to say. Josh Johnson was super impressive. He really laid his balls out on the table and just balled out, man. I thought he played really, really well.
Yeah, and if he wants to, why can't he be a good teacher? He's been on like 16 teams.
Yep.
And I mean, that's gotta.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's gotta rival the Fitzpatrick record, right? How many teams has Fitzpatrick been on?
Oh my God, way more. Fitzpatrick has been on, I think, double-digit teams for real. It's been so many. It's incredible. I can think of 5 on the top of my head right now. So just to go back to our point from earlier, we were talking about how Josh Johnson could be a mentor. He's been in the league for a long time. He's been backing up. He's been playing a little bit of football. He's learned the game of football. And so, yes, why can't he teach? Why can't Mike White help teach? Apparently Mike White was interviewed on One Jets Drive talking about how, you know, he tries to pass along any information that he learned from his time with Dak Prescott to Zach. Like, I don't know, man. I don't.
That was a good episode, by the way.
It was really good. Yeah, if you guys haven't watched the last episode, really, really good.
Their production team is next level. They really are. They're excellent productions, and not every team does stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can talk a little bit about Marcus May. Other than, I mean, the obvious, torn his Achilles, and that's devastating for everybody. It's devastating for Marcus specifically. He's definitely not getting a long-term contract from anybody at this point, not after that kind of injury. And it hurts the Jets in the short term, man. We have no safeties that I feel good about. None. So, really not a whole lot to talk about. We can talk about Denzel Mims. Why don't you go first on that one? Yeah, Luke Falk was the guy I was thinking of, Robbie Oak. Thank you very much.
I was at that Monday night game, the first Monday night game after it was announced that Sam had mono, and it was bad, very bad. Yeah, no, Denzel Mims threw a little fit last night. Did you see that? Yeah, he laid out for a ball, missed it, and I mean that was after Josh Johnson was in, and I don't know what that was. It seemed like he was frustrated with the lineup. He was frustrated with where they were going with the ball. Didn't bode well for him, but nonetheless, I still think it's good to see him get his opportunities. And I don't know. I'm not ready to say that he like totally disappeared. I just don't think that. Again, I don't think that the game that we're playing right now suits him. I think he's more of a wide receiver that is actually beneficial on for the play style that Zach is running, and not the play style that Mike LaFleur wants to run, which makes more sense. I mean, he's not really a possession guy, I think, as much as he is like a 30, 40-yard deep route kind of guy. You agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a little bit concerned with his hands, and that was not a concern of mine going into this season. The past 2 weeks now, he's had key drops. I mean, it doesn't look good that your guy is just getting basically hit by the ball and doesn't even really look like he knows where he is on the field. It's a little bit concerning. Hexjack's talking about Marcus May's agent and how he ruined him. He sure did. It seemed like Marcus May was like a leader of this team and not the type of player to do and say the things that he had been saying. So, yeah, dude, I don't know. It's so disappointing. It's so frustrating. Grant Rude says, I'm still on the Mims train. He has had some bad drops. I still like him a lot. And we heard from Joe Douglas this past week. He is also high. He spoke specifically about Denzel Mims. So I am not writing I'm not writing him off, but he's going to need to start producing, and not just producing, but producing when he's given his opportunities. That was my thing, was like when he got opportunities, he was striking and he was making plays. Now it's getting to be that point where now he's getting the opportunities and he's not really producing. So it's a little bit concerning in that regard. All right. We're going to flash forward a little bit here. We're going to talk a little bit about Buffalo, which is awfully concerning. I think they are the best team that we will have faced to this point. And I think that may be an overstatement and an obvious statement, but we've played some good football teams and we've beaten some good football teams. The Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry, the Cincinnati Bengals. So we're at home. I guess that's the one positive. We are at home. We've won 2 football games at home. What are you thinking here, Chatty Boy? And by the way, before you start talking, because I mentioned it earlier in the show and I'm going to mention it again, I am going to be recording the first podcast over the weekend and into Monday. Would love, love, love for the people that are watching this stream, because you guys are true Jets fans. I would love to hear from you guys. Would love to hear from Vern. I would like to hear from Grant Rude, Rick Fisher, Robbie Oak, all of you. Hex Jet, Matthias Simon, NY Jets Florida. I said Matthias Simon already. My apologies. I want to hear from everybody, man. I want to hear from all of you about this upcoming game and the state of the current team. I want to get you guys in on that channel. So in that podcast. So use the phone number on the top of the screen. Give me a call anytime. Leave me a voicemail, and you will be included, and I will answer any takes and any comments that you have about our team. Chad, talk to me. Yeah, Bills, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Bills are the best team in the AFC right now. I don't think that's a question. I would almost dare put the Ravens there, but I think the injuries are just a little bit. I think the injuries are finally catching up to them. Look, there's going to be times in that game where it's going to be hard to watch. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I think the defense I think the momentum may shift. I think the defense may come out and surprise us. If Mike White starts and if he plays the way that we think that he's capable of playing, I think we could keep it a little bit closer than we may have expected. This may not be the blowout that we're all expecting, or that many will be expecting. It's really going to depend how much we can control the ball, and if Mike White shows up in the way that we hope he will. I don't think we're going to win. Don't get me wrong. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be as bad as it might otherwise be.
I like this take, and we got another take here from NY Jets Florida. The Bills struggled against the Dolphins for 3 quarters. So, their record says they're really, really good, and I'm sure they are a good football team. I tend to think that they are. But you're right. They're a divisional opponent, and being at home does matter. And maybe they rebound, because we saw that again going from the Patriots game to the Bengals game. We saw the rebound. So, who's to say, man? I mean, crazier stuff has happened, obviously, but I have to share this picture. I just got this on my phone, and I'm surprised I've been able to hold it together. This is my daughter watching our show right now. So there she is watching us talk Jets, which is pretty freaking cool, man. That's the first time I've ever seen anything like that, so pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The biggest problem that I have thinking about this football game is just matchups and quality players, and also everybody likes that. The talent level, but also the experience. This is a team that has experienced a lot of games together. The coaching staff has been together for a long time. In a lot of ways, it feels kind of like the Patriots-Jets matchup. They are a soundly coached football team. They've been together a long time. I'm not going to back down from it. I'm worried about this football game. It could get out of hand just like this past game, and we might not be able to crawl back and make it a respectable 15-point loss versus a 40-point loss or whatever it could have been. Oh my God. I had to take the pic. She thought it was live and kept saying hi. That's adorable. I hope you recorded that. Vern, good point. We gotta make this a PG channel, I guess. I don't know. I didn't realize that we were in the same class as Coco Melon and Paw Patrol and all that other BS.
What are those? What is that?
Oh, those are just kids' channels. We're now being watched by a 3-year-old, so I have to watch. To watch myself. Eleanor, if you're watching me, I love you. Vern, he says the Bills don't run it at all, all that well. But I think we will be Swiss cheese versus Allen with no pass rush and a weak secondary. Yeah, that's the problem defensively. Not really one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, Mike White's not gonna be able to do anything. I'm with Chad. The positives right now, and again, we all talked about this. We said if the offense starts to ball out and the defense is terrible, we would sign on that line. We all kind of said that, I'm pretty sure. So, Grant Rude, he says, LOL. What is that?
I mean, look, would you, I know it's still a little bit early, but would you put the Bills in the AFC Championship right now?
Yeah, I think I would. I
mean, yeah, this is my like AFC Championship one of the in my matchup right now. So it's going to be rough. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I do believe that the defense is going to have at least somewhat of a bounce back performance. So we'll see.
We're talking about the running backs. Like Robbie Oak threw out Moss, Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary. They're not really that great. They don't produce a whole lot. But Josh Allen is incredible. And we're not just talking about the arm with him. It is the whole package. This guy is a bruiser. We talked about lacking of physicality on our offense. This guy brings the physicality for his offense as the quarterback. He's so much like a Cam Newton, but better, I think, throwing the football. He is so damn physical. And when he gets out of the pocket, you just have to hope and pray that you can prevent them from taking your head off. They can go up top. He can run the ball. It's really going to be hard to compete in this football game. I'm not going to throw my prediction out there right now because I think I'll probably do that on the podcast. I think it's going to be a blowout. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say it. I think we're going to get our butts chewed off pretty good here. The NY Jets, Florida, he seems to agree with you. They seem to be bouncing back from really bad, embarrassing losses. And he's right. The Patriots are playing well. They just beat the Chargers. I believe it was like 27-24, something like that. The Chargers are a solid football team. So the Patriots are it's not like they're some, you know, it's not like they don't belong in the NFL. They're a good football team. They're coached really well. So I hear I hear your take, and I understand what you're saying for sure. He's talking about Trey Edmonds. Yes, Edmonds is a definite star. Really, really athletic as far as I understand. He's a super athletic dude. So, yeah, I mean, again, the biggest concern though right now has to be defensively. It can't be our offense, which is crazy. Crazy to think about that the defense is now the big concern. Carmelo El Bori's way, he says Jets offense looks good. Zach's inexperience was a detriment, but with White teaching exactly how to run the offense, Zach's talent will keep us in every game. But if Zach doesn't perform well, White's pretty good. I like this take, and I kind of hinted at it. I don't remember when we talked about it, but seeing Mike White run the offense, seeing Josh Johnson run the offense and effectively run the offense, numerous touchdowns, hundreds of yards passing in the passing game. If Zach just watches them and flips the tape on, and I'm sure he will, and I'm sure the coaching staff will be like, hey, Zach, this is what we want you to do in these play calls that we're using. And I think it's a real positive. I really, really do. And I'm crossing my fingers that's the movement here, is like him learning, being injured, learning the playbook better, learning how to read defenses is all part of it. His mechanics need to improve, but just seeing how productive he can be by just letting the offense be what dictates the play on the field and not necessarily him making all the plays by himself. I think that's going to be very beneficial. And El Bori's way, you are hitting on that right for sure, I think. Absolutely. Seems to be a thing. And I'm hoping very much so that he can learn from it. Rick Fisher, I'm a glutton for punishment because I love the Jets. Yes, it is. It's been a long time for you, I'm sure. It's been a long time for me. I've been rooting for this freaking team for a long time. Over 2 decades now, which is crazy to think about. I just want to start winning football games, and we all do. So it's hard to root for a team that's, not competing. We made it a 15-point football game, but I give a lot of the points that we scored due to the fact that we really were just completely blown out. And I know they were playing hard in the Colts, but we were down 32 points. I mean, they had some room for error there. They didn't have to do a whole lot offensively. They didn't really have to do a whole lot defensively. So, I don't know. Grant Root says, you're setting yourself up for the same thing as when Darnold came back from mono. I'm thinking actually more about the time when Darnold came back from his injury versus the Dolphins in his rookie year. What do you remember about that, Chad? So when he came back from that time off, what do you recall?
He had that stretch of like 3 games. Well, he had that horrible game against the Dolphins, but then when he came back, he had those awesome games at the end of, I guess that was now 2018, when it was the Packers game, the Texans game, and then one other one that I'm misremembering.
Packers.
It was Packers, because that's where what's his face had that awesome catch. It was Packers, Texans, and then somebody else. But you're right. He looked awesome. He came back and he looked awesome. And I know that we're all looking for the same thing from Zach. It's too early to tell. I do think we're going to see it. Connor Hughes pointed this out, and I do agree with him. The argument is Zach's never played like this in his life. So what has worked for Zach for his entire life, we're now asking him to change. And surely that's easier said than done. Does he have the talent to do what Josh Johnson is doing and what Mike White's doing? He absolutely does. But can he turn this on in 2 weeks? That's the question. I don't know. Could it take an entire offseason? Maybe.
Yep.
I don't know that it's even right for us to expect that in 2 or 3 weeks.
I think it's a fair point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start to put a bow on the show here. If you got any last-second comments, I'm going to ask you one last time. I'm going to beg you to send your voicemails, or, you can go ahead and tweet me at MYJ Today. Send me some of your takes, some of your comments as we head into the game versus the Buffalo Bills. I would love to discuss it on the podcast that will be coming out on Wednesday morning. I think that's when I'm going to release those. And I hope you guys tune in for that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And just really looking forward to getting that rolling and getting some consistency with making some videos again. I think that'll be a big thing for the channel. So Robbie Oak says those late season winning streaks pissed me off so bad. We were still bad, but dropped like 8 draft spots. Yeah. And that could happen this year. That's the poll right now in the chat is, will the Jets go on a mild winning streak after the Bills game? We play the Dolphins, we play the Texans, we play the Dolphins again at some point. We play the Jags, we play the Saints, who have no quarterback right now. They're a really good football team still, but no QB. We're going to be at home for that football game. We play the Eagles at home. We play the Bucks, who may not need that game. We play the Bills at the very end of the season, who may not need that game. The Jets could go on a winning streak. They can win some football games to end the year, and I think that we need to prepare ourselves for that. I am not expecting some massive 5-6 game winning streak or anything like that, but it would not shock me at all if we end up as a 5-6 win team based on who we have left on our schedule. It really wouldn't shock me at all. What do you think about that, Chad? Because we'll wrap it up with that.
Right now, it might be different when you get closer to draft time, but you know what? Wins are so hard to come by with this team. And I would love to have some momentum going into next season. I don't want the sting of a 2-14, or I guess I should say 2-15 now season, or a 3-16 season, or whatever, 3-15 season going into next year. Now, I would like to collect some wins, and I would like to take that momentum going into next season. That's how I want it to be. And I'm such a glutton. I'm thinking about going up to that Jags game because the Knicks are playing on Christmas. I'm thinking about going to the Knicks game and then going to the Jags game the next day.
You are speaking Michelle's language, so we should try to maybe coordinate something because she wants to go to a Jags game really bad, or the Jags game or the Eagles game, I believe, really bad. The tickets are super cheap right now, like dirt cheap. So if you're interested, and guys, if anybody in the chat is interested, maybe we could all make a poll. Who's gonna go to this game? That could be fun as well. All right, Vern says steal one against the Bills and then win the next 3. Oh my, we are not stealing one against the Bills. Go Jets, guys! Thank you so much for watching. Really hope to hear from you in the voicemails. Look forward to hopefully seeing you in the comments. Hopefully to see you in the comments for the first podcast. I'll go ahead. Let me tease it. I'll put it up. Hold on. Let me put a video up. Here it is. Presentation. Oh, that did not work. Hold on. Let's pause that. That sure as heck didn't work. We just deleted Chad. Hold on. Let me try that one more. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Sorry. All right. Now that that's failed, hope you all have a great night. Go Jets. And we'll see you guys next time. Sorry, Chad, I deleted your face. You're still on the stream, though. Hope you all have a great night. Go Jets. See you guys next time.